minutes was like that, Kiara, you know, you were talking to such an audience which graduated and they realized in those days, your generation may not know, but we used to have had a 5-year plan, which is a government scheme. And often at the end of the 5 years, we used to have overruns in terms of cost and time, and in terms of outcome, it was 0. Now what they learned after 3 5-year plans of their life, which is 10 plus 2 plus 3, is that they have hardly anything in their hand. And what would have been their dream is to do what you did. So this is something which is fantastic. You know, our childhood, we spent nothing else but doing homework. And that too of differential calculus, which I never touched in my life afterwards. And in the adulthood, we spent time in 2 things: IT filing and KYC. Now we did nothing after that. That's how you are addressing. Sir and madam, what a fantastic education you are giving it to your daughter, which really makes her one of the finest students I have ever met. And undoubtedly you are the finest parents I have met. You just showed that you met Shashi Tharoor.
I had just attended a lesson that he'd given, and he was talking about how at my age, when he was 13, he had started to write articles and publish them, and how he was reading 365 books in a day.
In a year.
In a year, sorry, my bad.
Okay. But you understood Shashi Tharoor's English? Okay, jokes apart. But that's a real life learning when you meet a language expert like Shashi Tharoor. Sir, where did you get this fantastic idea? Because we all say that we need world class. You really created a world class for your daughter.
Well, we're trying. Thank you. Thank you for those kind words. No, I think, you know, we all have disillusions with the schooling system, so to speak. So, you know, I don't want to delve too much into them, but, you know, the one size fits all, us learning or being forced to learn a lot of things that we have very little applicability in life. And those things were always at the back of our minds. But truly, like she said, that trip in Antarctica, I mean, there were many incidents, but at that particular, on that particular trip, there were really people talking about subjects that even us would have had perhaps limited interest. And if you told me that, you know, an 8-year-old child or a 10-year-old child would be interested in subjects like geopolitics or, you know, want to learn about climate change, right? I wouldn't really believe that. I wouldn't believe that.
Correct.
But here she was leaving us the story that she really indicated. And, you know, we were on board for 20 days, lectures continuously, various subjects, amazing experts. And really that was, I think, you know, the real bang to make us feel that the real world is, you know, is going to introduce children today to subjects that really matter, right? As opposed to perhaps calculus or differentiation.
Yeah,
I don't
of
know,
course.
right?
I mean, we all have defined missing from school in a very different manner. What they have done is redefine the meaning of the word missing from the school. What is more important is that each one of us, and especially the students upstairs, everybody is born with a spark when they are born with. This spark is what God has given it to you. Over a period of time, our education and our family system does everything on this earth to extinguish that spark. And as a result of the day, an out-of-box thinking, brilliant brain in the class ultimately becomes a routine guy sitting next door, doing nothing in life except retiring and then commenting on the social media. That's the reality of the life. It takes a lot of courage to challenge the set paradigms and conventional beliefs. Many parents would dream that such kind of education should be made available to their kid, but not all would dare and take trouble to make it happen for their kids. You go to any school, every school will tell you, we are here to provide holistic education to the kids enrolled. And what they do at the end of the day is cramped up 60 or 70 students in a classroom. They actually make a hole in their life, nothing else. So all struggle to create the best brain on the earth. But at the end of the day, you just have a 10th standard mark sheet which has no meaning and no confidence given to it. Some succeed to break this mold. It's not that all fell, and I'm not that cynical in life. Yes, some do succeed in breaking that mold despite education, not because of education. That's the difference. And this is where I would say that we end up in doing so many unwanted things in our syllabus. Believe me, a man like me studied differential calculus in his life and simultaneous equations. And even I was told to draw pictures when I was not good in that. I used to pass. Our teacher was Athole. She used to pass me because I used to write below that picture mango. So she'd say, oh, attempt made. Attempt made. So that's how I passed. Still we are struggling with 1835 Macaulay, which is there to create nothing else but clerical slaves. A mentality to say yes sir or yes madam. Nobody would go to what we call it as new way of educating, and that is exploriment. So what this wonderful family did is to learn by exploriment. You explore and you experiment to educate yourself. Give a big hand to their daring, I would say. Thank you. Madam,
Yes.
I'm sure every mother has a backup plan. What was the backup plan if this doesn't work?
Quite honestly, we didn't, when Kiara left school, we didn't think of it as this is what she was going to do forever. What we did was take it year on year, see how she adjusted to it, see how we adjusted to it, because this was something completely new that we were trying. Very honestly, we didn't even know how we were going to go about doing it. We started to focus on her interests. We started to look at various options, and we thought that, okay, if this doesn't work, if she doesn't like it, we'll go back to school. That was the backup plan. But thankfully, we didn't need to, because she has enjoyed it so much, and she has learned so much in the last 2.5 years that many people now come and ask us, oh, grade 8 or the equivalent of grade 8 is done, but 9th and 10th is coming up, and that is definitely something you have to take very seriously.
If not, the kids' parents have to take it seriously.
I feel I'm under more pressure than she is. But we are actually considering not considering it. You know?
Wow.
Yeah.
I have a question to ask is that, okay, fine. You can teach various other things, history by going to various forts and battlefields of yesteryears. You can teach geography by taking it to a variety of locations. You can teach environment by taking it to lakes and ponds and rivers and mountains. How will you teach maths and science?
Would you like to?
So I think that a lot of the programs and the diving programs, ocean programs that I've done have taught me a lot of science. And sometimes we'll be looking at microscopes because, like I said in my talk earlier, diving wasn't just for fun. It was to understand the environment. And so the science comes from there. I'm looking at things under the microscope and talking to marine biologists and people and understanding scientific methods as well. And As for the math, that's mainly Mom. Mom's my teacher for math.
Okay, that's so interesting.
I'd like to make one
Yeah.
point if I could. You mentioned that you learn history by going to a place and you learn geography by going to a place, etc. But what we are learning through our journey is much more than history or geography as individual subjects. We are learning that science or geology created geography. That geography determined the history of a place.
Wow.
That history, in turn, influences political and current affairs even today. So everything is connected. We are not learning anything in isolation.
Wow. Those who forget geography in history, they must have been slaves. That's the real reason behind understanding. Sir, for doing all this, there has to be a financial support because educating like this is not easy. What is about the financial plan for educating in such a wonderful way?
Sure, I think we have been blessed. I wouldn't want to get into the details, but we used to own a sports tech business that we were fortunate to be able to exit at some point of time,
Yeah.
and that's left us in a blessed and privileged situation to financially be able to do this. But on the other hand, we tell Kiara this very, very often, that it's not so much about the money, right? It is the time, and really there is learning everywhere. Yes, sure, a lot of the visuals she showed us were from places around the world, but there are several instances where a lot is available around us, right? And we don't realize that. Right? There are stories when she talks about apart from turtles, we've all grown to love octopus, for example. When you go snorkeling and diving, you see them, you see them rarely. Some people have gone on several dives and haven't seen them, and they're beautiful, absolutely amazing creatures. The last 3 times, perhaps, that Kiara has gone right here in Bombay, she's come back with photos of, observing octopus for over an hour, free
Wow.
of cost,
Wow.
right? So there are opportunities, I think, wherever you go, wherever you find yourself. In our city, there are umpteen things that, whatever your interests are, right? We try to be out in nature as often as possible. Once we were, again, in another remote part of the world, and somebody said, flamingo, let's go and see some flamingos. They were an hour and a half away, and at that point of time, we'd seen flamingos maybe in the zoo or, an odd flamingo. And we drove an hour and a half, and we saw, literally 150 flamingos. It was nice and scenic. And, maybe less than a year later, we went out in Bombay, and you can see 80,000 flamingos here.
Yes.
Right? So there is really learning everywhere. And, we've often when we are in Bombay, we go out. A lot of things that we do are inexpensive or free, and a lot of our learning comes, a lot of Kiara's learning comes in the outdoors. I say us because I think we all learn, being alongside her. We're fellow learners in this.
Oh,
journey.
yeah, wonderful.
Yeah.
You are referring to, I think, Airoli site where they have
Yes.
a lot of flamingos.
Yes.
It doesn't cost even 100 rupees to reach there
Yeah.
to see thousands and thousands of flamingos, and you can watch them, you can videograph them. Actually, the government has started a boat service to study them. Often it goes empty. That's the reality. I have a question for you, is that the conventional education system, does it make smart kids less intelligent?
I think everyone's journey is independent. On the whole, perhaps, but obviously there are cases that that contradict that. So I'm not sure how to comment about that.
Kiara, I'm sure you would be comparing yourself with with your batchmates in the 5th standard, because you're still a Panchvi pass. You're not 8th standard. What difference do you find in their knowledge level, experience level, and your level?
So I think a lot of the times what they know is more technical, I heard them I was with my friends a few weeks ago, and I heard them discussing, the layers of the cell, and they were talking about very, very, very technical terms, some of which I didn't know. But there are things that I know that they don't. So it's
both. But somewhere you will have to document what you have seen, isn't it?
Right.
Otherwise, it cannot be captured in a capsule kind of thing. How do you document it?
So currently, I have an Instagram page. It's called Missing from School. You can all go and look at my journey and follow my journey from there. And that's where I try and write posts, or I make videos to document what I'm seeing. And I also, one of my goals in the future, or starting from now, is to start writing articles and publishing things like that. So yeah.
We sorry if I may, we just
Yeah.
did some goal setting with her for sort of the next few months. We'd like to say the whole year, but we may not even take it the whole year at a time. And one of the things we've looked at is she's had a lot of what we'd like to call inputs. It's a term Danielle actually came up with, saying, you've gotten a lot of inputs. It's time to sort of look at how we can create some forms of output with whatever her interests are, again, right? And so that's a very, very active part of this year, whether it's publishing some of her work, a book, whatever form. She can decide what that is, but I think just creating output and publishing and, is sort of, I think, fairly important. But she does a good job of, Instagram. Somebody talked about, Mr. Kulkarni talked about the Northern Lights in Finland and stuff, right? When we saw them for the first time, she had to actually go and self-research to, why does that appear? And then she put out a little video about it. So it's every little thing that we're doing. I think there's an effort to do self-research and understand. Right.
So actually, that enhances the curiosity. Madam, whenever we send our kid to a conventional schooling system, there is a year plan in front of us. That on June 15th, it will open. On, let's say, July 30th, there would be a first mid-semester examination. For that, history will have 4 chapters. So in the week 1, you will be taught with the first chapter. Maths will have 3 chapters. So in the first week, you will be taught with the first chapter. This is a schedule complete for 1 year. This is the time when you have annual social gatherings, and this is the time you will go for picnic and all that. So it's all lined up. So designing 1 full year for Kiara, what is it that was in your mind? Was it the syllabus-based places where you want to take her to teach, or it's upon her interest and your availability?
It is actually based on her interest. And we don't do 1 year at a time. We do 3 months at a time, which gives us flexibility to tweak the schedule and to decide if we want to take a different route completely or a different topic. We may start with Greek history, which is one of Kiara. Kiara loves Greek mythology. So our last trip actually was where we tried to understand where mythology meets history. How much is fact? How much really happened? But then somewhere down the way, we realized that, okay, we want to spend a little more time doing something else, and we would do that. So it's not a 1 year plan. It's 3 months. However, the recreational parts where family weddings and get-togethers, those are definitely marked in the calendar ahead so that we can plan around it.
Yeah. So I think Mom said that it's given us a little bit of flexibility, and it's allowed, like, when this opportunity came up to talk here at Swayam Talks, because we didn't plan for the whole year, we're able to stay in Mumbai and, give and have opportunities like this.
See, whenever a daughter scores or a son scores a little less mark, the parent push them up, and they build a sort of competitive spirit that you have to score better in the next. And the parents are too much pushy. They said you have to stand first in the class or something like that. So they also learn through their failures in examinations. Are we missing about this?
We have taught Kiara that she shouldn't be afraid of failure.
Okay.
In fact, she should encourage it, because you learn through your failures. So while she may not have a test or an exam which is grading her in any way for her to assess weaknesses, she does work on things. Sometimes she'll write an article or post for her Instagram, and she would have put in a lot of work and it doesn't do well. So to her, that's failure, but we try to tell her that's the effort that she's put in and she needs to value that. Some things will work, some things won't, but to take failure in her stride.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. And I just wanted to add to when you talked about, goal setting and it be interest driven. I think, again, relating to Mr. Kulkarni's talk from today, where he said that kids today need skill building, right?
Correct.
And the skills are, we all know the real world, challenges that we all deal with. So I'll give you a small example that, Kiara talked about her love for the oceans. She'd gone on a long program with a group of educationists in the Maldives, and she'd been diving. And I hadn't gone on that trip. And they dropped me an update saying, your daughter is just addicted to sort of, marine life and learning and all of that. And, for me, understanding, the term addiction
Correct.
meant that she'd want to do it more and more often, right? And again, coming back to the financial ability to do it or not. Again, it's not about the ability to do it or not, but she landed back from the Maldives, and literally a few minutes after meeting her, I said, Kiara, I have an exercise for you. Without, our parenting styles may be slightly different, but we're absolutely aligned with, with how we go about things. So I told Kiara, going forward, you need to ensure that you pay for your own dive, right?
Wow.
And we told her that she couldn't do it with gifts that grandpa gives her or something like that.
No way.
Right? So we told her, you need to figure out, right? Go through a budgeting exercise. If you want to do 20 dives, figure out where you're going to do these dives, what it's going to cost you, and figure out how you can make money, right? And we told her two things. We said, I'll introduce you to sort of, a little bit all her gifts from the time she was born are in a bank account. I said, you can't use that money, but you need to figure out
So
how
you
to
have
grow
earn
that,
it, not
how to
inherit it.
Yes.
how to grow that money,
Yep.
figure out how to grow that money. So she started to get interested in
Investing in the stock market.
yeah.
Oh, really?
A lot of our dives were paid for thanks to the Zomato stock going up, right, quite a bit. The other thing we told her is, you're free to try and raise money for a social cause or a charity, and whatever you do, we will contribute. Whatever you generate for charity goes to charity, and we will match 1:1 towards your diving trip.
Such a wonderful.
So
That's,
maybe she can quickly talk about
yeah, why don't you talk? That's
can-
very interesting.
So
And
what
don't forget to tell me some share tips, you can make huge losses.
So a few months ago, actually a year now, I started this project called Book Hearted, where I was asking people from all over Mumbai to donate the books that they're done reading, that they're never going to look at again, because they were just lying there taking space, and they're hidden gems, basically. And so people donated a lot of these books, and I had an event to sell all of these books, and in the end we raised 59,000 rupees for a charity called Nanhi Kali.
Yes, but coming back to your point on failure, she did eventually raise this money, but on day one of her event, she barely had 10 people coming to it. She was very disappointed, and she felt that she had put in a lot of hard work, that she had gotten people to donate, and she had tried to communicate the best way she could. But that was a lesson in failure for her, that sometimes all the hard work that you put in doesn't necessarily translate to success. She was indeed lucky that on day 2, with word of mouth, it picked up, and a lot of people came and supported her and supported the cause, and she was able to raise the money that she did.
Wonderful. Actually, what you are doing for your daughter, madam, is to create a learning environment rather than teaching rhetorics? Is that what you are focusing at?
Yeah.
Dear friends, it is so important to focus on learning and not teaching. What's happening in today's classroom is exactly the reverse way. Let me explain this to you in a minute with a small incident. There was this boy of her age. He went to a small village. He went to a chauraha and said, I have taught my dog how to sing a song. There were some women sitting there. They realized what he's saying. He again shouted aloud, I have taught my dog how to sing a song. He realized that he got a TRP. So he went to another chauraha, another square, and again shouted, I have taught my dog how to sing a song. There were some old men sitting there. They asked, hey, what are you talking? Why don't you show that dog to us? He said, yes, come to my home tomorrow 10 o'clock in the morning. The news spread like a wildfire. The next day, the entire village was at his doorsteps. He comes at exactly sharp time, opened the door, and comes with a small white Pomeranian dog. But there is a silence of this kind when he ordered, Tommy, sing a song. Tommy opened the mouth. And you won't believe, Tommy opened the mouth and started barking. अभी कुत्ता है यार, कैसे गाना गा सकता है? So people said, hey, you said you have taught your dog how to sing a song. He said, I told you I taught. I never said he learned. What they are actually doing is to create that learning experience for her daughter. Last question before we part is that what next? What is that? अब तक तो आपने best दे दिया. What next you want to give it to your daughter?
Honestly, we haven't thought that far. This year, like Naveen mentioned, we are focusing a lot on real world skill building because those are the skills that she's going to need rather than trigonometry and calculus. But beyond that, it's just preparing her for the world, preparing her for real life. And as far as what she'll do in eventually, she has a story about that.
So someone once gave me the best advice I've ever received, which is it's okay to not know what you want to do, but you should know what you don't want to do.
Wow.
And so
Wow.
I'm not sure what I'll end up being when I grow up, but I know I don't want to be things. I'm not personally interested in being a doctor or an engineer, and I want to do something eventually that I love. And my two biggest passions are history and the ocean. So.
Oh my God. What a terrific life, friends. This is all of us we wanted to do in life, but somewhere we saw somebody is doing it. What actually this family has done is to put an expiry date on curriculum, an expiry date on syllabus making process. When a 12 or 13-year-old boy or girl in our home falls ill, we take it to the doctor. Doctor prescribes a medicine. We go to the pharmacy shop to buy the medicine. We never look at the price because in any case you have to buy it. But we do look at the expiry date on the cover. Because if it is expired, that medicine is harmful for your daughter or your son. But when we put the same son or daughter into an engineering class or a BCom or a BA, we never look at the expiry date of the syllabus. If the expired medicine is harmful, how come expired syllabus and expired way of educating is not harmful? That's the question this wonderful family leaves you with. Not all would go their way, but at least you will take time to educate your kids little different than the others. Because to have exceptional output, you need exceptional input. This family is nothing else but, in one line, world class apart.